Howdy, and welcome to episode 37 of T-Shirts and Shawls. I'm Karen, and today is Thursday, September 7th, 2017. And we're just going to jump right in and get started. So the shirt I'm wearing today is one that I picked up pretty recently, so let me stand up so you can see it. So this is a scene from The Never-Ending Story, and then it says, "Be confident." So if you have not seen The Never-Ending Story, first of all, go see it. It's a really good movie, and or go read the book. It's a good book. The first movie covers about the first half of the book. The book has a much bigger story. Anyway, so there's a scene where Atreyu, the main characters, he has to go through a series of tests. And so this is one where he has to pass through this basically archway. If he lacks confidence at all, the eyes will open and basically shoot, it looks like lasers or something, which would not be good for him. Anyway, so the shirt, the be confident thing, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I have been feeling a little bit down the past few weeks. I've mentioned before that I was kind of in a reading slump. And then the past few weeks, I've kind of been in a knitting slump where I haven't really been super eager to work on anything. And I will, there were a few evenings where my husband and I would be watching TV where I usually do my knitting. And there were times where the knitting was just resting in my lap and I wasn't actually knitting. So I've been trying to figure out, okay, so what's going on? Why am I in this slump? And I don't know for sure that this is it, but I've realized that that I think I've kind of figured a few things out. So to kind of explain it all, need a little history. So when I was in junior high and high school, I was not part of the popular crowd. Definitely very much an outsider. When I was in junior high, that mattered to me so much more. I wanted to be that in the popular crowd, and that not being part of that really, I guess, negatively affected me. And in high school, I started to kind of find my own place and feel a little bit better, but I still... it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be one of that particular popular crowd, but I wanted to be popular. But I never really felt like I completely fit in. I had a few friends that were really good friends, and now looking back on it, that matters so much more, having those really good friends than having everybody, know and like me. But it's taken me a long time to kind of get to that point where I feel much more confident in who I am and kind of my place in the world. So I've had ups and downs over the years, but I had kind of a down period maybe about 2 years back where I was kind of looking at what I was wearing, because and part of this also, my birthday is next week, so that might also be kind of playing into it. I don't know if I've ever officially mentioned how old I am, but next week I will be 41. So right now I am 40. I had that big milestone birthday last year, so I'm also I still feel very young, but technically I'm getting a little older. I'm in my 40s now, which is kind of crazy for me to say. But so I felt, in my late 30s, a few years back, that maybe I should dress a little more like an adult rather than wearing geeky t-shirts all the time. So I actually signed up for, and I think it's called Stitch Fix. I realized when I was thinking about recording this that I should look up the name, but I think that's what it's called. Basically, it's a subscription service where every month you have a stylist who sends you 5 articles of clothing, or they could be accessories. 5 articles of clothing, you try them on, see what you like, see what you don't like. You get little style cards that, show you kind of how to wear them. So I did that for a while, and I picked up several articles of clothing in my closet that I actually still have. And I tried to dress less like a teenager, wearing t-shirts, and more like an adult. but it never really felt right. It didn't feel like I was being myself. And then I finally just decided to stop doing that and to wear what I wanted to wear, what made me comfortable. And then when I started this podcast, feeling like I needed to have plenty of t-shirts to talk about. So I've been buying more t-shirts than anything else. And that is what I wear, and that's what I like to wear. And then also the thing with my hair. I wanted to dye my hair for years, many years. And I didn't do it, mostly because I worried about what people would think. And then finally I just decided this is something I want to do. I'm just going to do it. And I think as long as, again, it's that confidence thing, as long as I'm confident about it, and I have purple hair and that is me, that's who I am. Then yes, there probably are people who look at me and might not think that it's appropriate. But so what? That's okay. This is who I am. In fact, about a month or two back, my husband said, when you get those Facebook memories that pop up, he said, one popped up from, I think, 2 years ago of me and Luke. And he said he actually had to do a double take because it didn't look like me. Because my hair wasn't purple. It was my brown natural hair color. And even though he's known me far longer with brown hair than purple hair, he said he just feels like the purple is me. It's who I am, and that I didn't look right with my natural brown color. So that was kind of nice to hear, especially because that was kind of at a time where I was deciding, do I want to continue on with the purple or not? Because the maintenance is not super fun. But anyway, so I'm at the point in my life where I am much more comfortable with who I am. I am not overly concerned about what other people think. And then that kind of all came to not a screeching halt, but all those questions and insecurities came back up again when Luke started school. And part of that is because I feel as a parent kind of a bit of an outsider. I walk Luke to school and pick him up and walk him back home from school. And so I'm seeing the other parents who are also walking their kids back and forth to school. And I don't know anything about their lives. I don't know really who they are in their day-to-day lives, but just kind of the things that I hear them talking about and whatnot. That's just I feel completely separate from that. I feel like that is the types of concerns and things that they talk about just aren't the things that are in my life. I've got knitting, I've got all the geeky stuff, I've got small business types of things that I'm interested in learning about. And I'm sure there are other parents that are like me. But it's kind of hard to see that, and I'm not really seeing that in any of the parents that I'm seeing, at Luke's school, and so I'm just really getting that outsider feeling, and it seems like there are these, I don't want to call them rules, but unwritten rules, just kind of things that other parents are doing that I don't even know to think about. So I'm on a Facebook group for Luke's school, and one of the parents posted, I'm going to go to Sonic today and bring some of the teachers some Sonic drinks. And my thought was, that's a thing? I mean, that's something that, that parents do. And some of the other, like volunteer opportunities, I don't mind volunteering at Luke's school, but it seems like everyone else seems to know all of these things and know what's expected, and I don't. I feel like, I went to the kindergarten orientation, but I feel like there must have been some other orientation or something that I missed, because I really feel like there's some separation, and I don't know how to find those things out. Besides, maybe talking to some of the parents, or continuing on, keeping up in the Facebook group and whatnot. But it feels like there are I don't know, maybe they know each other a lot better. Perhaps they have older kids in the school and they've, had a few years to get to know one another. That also kind of makes me feel a little bit separate, having an only child. It seems like almost everyone else has more than one. Seems like that. It's probably not true, but it's just kind of how it feels sometimes. So there are all these things that are happening and going on that are making me feel back to where I was in junior high, where I am, sitting on the sidelines and have no idea, what, how to do the things that all the popular kids are doing. And so I've kind of been feeling a little bit bummed out about that. And I really, honestly, I'm mostly okay with that. I mean, I don't want to change my life, and if I feel like, giving a treat to a teacher, then, that's something that I will do, but I don't feel like I need to go make Sonic runs, every day or whatever, and bring that to the teachers. It seems like that does seem to be an expectation with some of the other parents. But that's what they're doing. So I just need to figure out what I need to do. Like, we did get a little volunteer, thing, check off the things that you want to volunteer with. And I said, I'd love to volunteer in the library. So I checked that off. And for the book fairs. So I checked, it said spring and fall book fair. So I checked both of those off. So, just trying to find the things that I'm good at, that I fit into. And trying to kind of get involved and help out in that way. So I think that might be some of what I'm feeling. I also, maybe there's a much bigger adjustment with Luke starting school than I'm truly, realizing, and I still need to process. So there seems to be kind of a lot going on. So I wanted to kind of wear this shirt and remind myself that it's taken me a long time to get to the point where I am confident in who I am, and I don't want to lose that. I don't want to say, that means I'm going to, resist change and not, grow and learn new things, but I don't want to feel that lack of confidence in who I am. So we'll see if kind of my shift in thinking kind of helps with some of my mood and my focus and getting me out of that knitting slump and all of that. So we'll see what happens. But I kind of wanted to share a little bit of that, a little bit of what's going on, see maybe if any of you guys have felt that way, because one place that I do feel very much like I belong is the knitting community. And especially with you guys who have been watching this podcast. So thank you for helping me find a place where I do belong. Anyway, so that's just kind of what's been going on a little bit lately. For the shawl that I want to talk about today, it is a shawl that I did not finish, so I don't have anything to show you. And it is a shawl knit out of black yarn, and I have one tiny picture of the in progress before I decided to frog it. And it's a lace shawl, so it basically just looks like a big glob of black. So I'm not even going to show you the picture because it really doesn't show you anything. So basically, this is a shawl that I started. So thankful for Ravelry for allowing me to keep records of this so I can go back and see these types of things. So this is a shawl that I started May 29th, 2008. So I'd been knitting probably about 3 years at that point. No, maybe between 2 and 3 years at that point. Anyway, so I remember that I got the Victorian Laced Day book, and it's a gorgeous book. If you haven't seen it, definitely try to at least look it up on Ravelry. I'll put the link in the show notes to the pattern. So it's got gorgeous, gorgeous designs in it. And so there was this, it's just called A Large Rectangle with Center Diamond Pattern is the name of the shawl pattern. And I said, so in my little notes, I decided that I wanted a nice shawl to go with a sleeveless dress that I like. Plus, I wanted to try some lace knitting. I found this lovely yarn and have given this pattern a try. I'm a little confused on the instructions for the border, but as I am knitting the center panel right now, I won't have to worry about the border for a while. So and jumping in, doing some things that I hadn't really done that very much before with this. Apparently I hadn't done very much lace knitting. And I didn't go back and look at the pattern, but it's probably either a knitted on border, which now I love doing, especially on shawls, or it might be one where you pick up stitches around, like you knit the center rectangle and then pick up stitches around and then knit the border in the round. It could have been that. Like I said, I didn't go back to the pattern to look. Anyway, but I never got as far as the border in this. So a little later I write a note. It's hard to see the pattern with the black yarn, but I hope the picture gives a basic idea of the unblocked shawl. No, it really doesn't. Like I said, the picture is just a blob of black. And then a little later I wrote a note. I do want to finish this someday, but I have other projects that I'd prefer to work on right now. I think it's working with the black yarn that makes this project less enjoyable. And you guys, if you've ever worked with black yarn before, you know that's true. Black yarn it's difficult to see your stitches. It helps, you know, if your needle is of much lighter colors, you can have a bit of contrast to see your stitches better. But yeah, it's hard to see what you're doing, and knitting with black is quite a challenge. So I started that in May 2008. It took me until November 2009 to decide to frog that project. I said that I'm reclaiming the yarn and doing something else with it. So, looking at this project, I also really have no idea what I was thinking, both of the black yarn itself, but also further in the yarn selection. So the pattern was written for either lace or fingering weight yarn. My yarn was a DK weight yarn. Looking at my needle size, I did use a slightly bigger needle size. I use a size 7, but really a 7 is kind of still what you would normally use for DK weight. So I probably should have gone up even more. That might have helped with the lace pattern showing a little bit better. Like I said, it's just a blob. So I definitely did not pick the right weight of yarn for this project. I definitely didn't pick the right color of yarn. And then the yarn is a blend of alpaca and tencel. So the alpaca is super drapey, very little stitch definition. The tencel gives it kind of a bit of a shine, but also, again, very little stitch definition. So no wonder I frogged this project. I really botched the yarn selection on this one. This was completely the wrong yarn for this project, and that's probably why I did not enjoy it, and I decided to reclaim the yarn for something else. And I forgot to actually see, it looks like I just entered the yarn. I didn't actually put it in my stash. I just did where you can start a project and then put in the yarn instead of having it already in your stash. So I don't know what I ultimately decided to do with this yarn. I don't remember ever using it for anything else, so perhaps it was something that I destashed at some point. But anyway, so yeah, completely wrong yarn selection for that pattern. But that's something that I was a much newer knitter back then, and I really didn't know very much about picking the right yarn to match up with the right project. I'm still wondering why I thought a DK weight yarn would work for something that was meant for lace or light fingering. Anyway, so yeah, definitely lots of bad decisions on that pattern as a newer knitter. And now, looking back on it, almost 10 years later, I would know not to pick that pattern and that yarn matchup. So I kind of wanted to share that shawl to kind of go along with what I'm kind of thinking of as the theme for this episode, the Be Confident, that I am so much more confident in my knitting skills and ability and yarn selection. Yes, I still make bad choices. There are times where, where I have not made a good choice for matching a yarn and pattern, but I've definitely come a long way, and I am much more confident in what I'm doing and my skills. And whatever type of border goes on this, I think that I could have a much better handle on it than I did way back in 2008. So So that makes me feel good as a knitter to really see how far I've come. And that's one of the things I love about having been a member of Ravelry for so long, and you know, being able to look back at my projects just to kind of really see how far I've come. And I think that's the thing that matters to me most about knitting, kind of having that feeling of confidence. And I think that's why that's kind of the thing that I want other knitters to feel. And so in my newsletter, the little tagline, I guess, that I have is building your knitting skills and confidence. And that's actually literally the name of the Facebook group that I have. Because I really think that building confidence is something that's extremely important in knitting and in life and everything. And I think I need to sometimes take some of that confidence that I have in my knitting life and bring it over to other parts of me. But yeah, looking back at that shawl project definitely shows me how far I've come. And just think, you know, what's going to happen in the next 10 years of knitting if I keep expanding and growing my skills. It's kind of exciting. So yeah, thankful for Ravelry for allowing me to remember that project, because without Ravelry, I have no memory of working on this shawl at all. No memory. So definitely another kind of plug for why you should enter your projects in Ravelry. So one thing that I have finished recently, so I'll show that off. I finished my Dark Side EPV socks. So this is from Must Stash Yarns, the Dark Side EPV extended play version. And so both socks are done. And I was really, really close to the end of the second sock when I recorded the episode 2 weeks ago. And I think I finished that either later that day or the next day. So very excited to have another pair of socks for my sock drawer. So that's lots of fun. And just another thing, I ordered a little bit more of Mustache yarn. She had some colors on her website the other day, and I ordered it. It's on its way. It's not here yet, so I guess in 2 weeks I will do the what I'm stashing section and show you guys the colors that I picked. But that's all I finished for since the last podcast episode, and but it was a good project to get off the needles. What I'm knitting. So like I said, I've been in a bit of a knitting slump, so I haven't had a lot of progress on things that I'm working on. But since I finished the one pair of socks, I started the next pair, and I forgot to grab the tag, so I will definitely put this in the show notes. So I started a new pair of self-striping socks. So there is the colorway. This is from Jinx Yarns, and this is House Cup. So it's all the Harry Potter house colors. So hopefully you can see those there. And this is yarn that I've had in my stash for 2 years, I think. So I'm glad to finally break into it and start knitting with it. This is the first sock, so still a way to go, but making some progress on some of the self-striping yarn in my collection. So that's one thing that I'm working on. Then I have had the green shawl, so let me show you that one next. The green shawl that I'm designing, so instead of doing a what I'm designing section, I'm just gonna include it in what I'm knitting. So it's lace, so I've actually done a fair amount of work on it, but because it's lace, even though I've done a lot of stitches, it's not very big yet. So that is the progress so far, and there are beads in there. Hopefully you can see the beads. So I do have beads in there. I think I mentioned last time that I had trouble finding a crochet hook that worked with my beads. Fortunately, I went to the Knitting Fairy, my local yarn shop, and I had a, let's see if I can get that to focus. I had a 0.9 millimeter crochet hook, and that one was too big. This was 0.8 millimeters, and this is Chow-Gu. I really like the wooden handle on there. It makes it have a nice grip. Anyway, so I totally forgot to bring my beads with me to the store, but fortunately Alisa had some beads that were the same size as mine, and she let me take the crochet hook out of the package and try her beads, and they fit perfectly. So I went ahead and bought this, And yay, I came home and it fit my beads, and I like beading so much better with a crochet hook. So I have made progress on this shawl. It's still going to take me a while. I just finished this this section here. So this is a pie shawl, which means after a certain number of rows, you basically double the stitches that you have on the needles. So right now I have about 100 stitches. The next row is my doubling row. So I'm about to have 200 stitches on my needle. And then each row is going to take now twice as long to knit. So the progress will be steady, but it's still a little bit slow. So no idea when this pattern will be ready for test knitting. The good news is, because this is that shawl that I had already worked up but was upside down, and so now I'm flipping the stitch patterns over. I did already fully write out the pattern. Now I had to, revise that pattern based upon the revision in the stitches, but it is actually all written out. So so that's kind of a step forward. That usually, and I don't fully write out the pattern until I'm done with my sample. So once I finish the sample and make sure that all of the little details in the pattern are there, I can send it to the tech editor and then do test knitting. But it's going to be a while. But anyway, I'm making progress. What I'm not making very much progress on is my Beauty and the Beast shawl. In fact, I may have knit a little bit since the last recording, but I honestly don't remember. So that's my progress on that. And I have to admit, I've been feeling a little bit stressed about this, because this is my entry for this quarter's knit along. The quarter ends the end of this month, so September 30th is the end of the quarter for the knit along. And I honestly do not think, unless I totally turn my focus to this project and work on it, I don't think that that I'm going to finish this project by the end of the month. And I like this project. I like the pattern, I like the yarn, I like them together, but I just haven't really been feeling this project completely. It hasn't been the project that I wanted to pick up and work on. And I think that trying to make myself focus on it and get it finished quickly by the end of the month, I think that actually would turn against me rather than getting me out of my knitting slump. I think that would just kind of put me deeper into it. So I want to finish this shawl, and I will finish it, but it's going to be a project that I work on kind of here and there whenever I do feel like it. So I do still want to do something for the quarterly knit along. So I looked back through the bundle of suggested patterns. It's a bundle that I started, and then I opened it so that anybody could add patterns to the bundle. And I believe this was a pattern that somebody else added. So this is Wicked. And I totally forgot to look up the designer. I'm pretty sure it's Nim Teasdale. I will double check that and put that in the show notes. But it is Wicked, based off of a Wicked Stepmother. So it is it's a shawl, and it has beads also, but this one I used size 6 beads, so they're bigger, and my other crochet hook that I had been using works just fine for it. So I started working on it, and as you can see, it's definitely made a lot more progress on this one than I have on the Beauty and the Beast shawl. So this one I do feel like I can finish by the end of September. And the yarn that I'm using, if you can already see a little bit, hopefully you can see the color change kind of right in there. So this is a gradient yarn. This is from Panorama Fiber Arts. So Heather is the dyer behind Panorama, and she's a really awesome person. I really like Heather a lot. And you can see the rest of the color changes here. So it's going to go to a darker purple and eventually to a black. And so I really felt like the shawl being called Wicked, especially ending up on the black, I think will work really well. This pattern is one where you can repeat the sections as many times as you want. And I like the last section. I like the lace pattern in it the most. And so that's the section that I'm going to choose to just kind of keep repeating. I think I have like 2 more rows to go before I get to that next chart. And then I'll just kind of weigh my yarn and keep repeating that one as many times until I use up as much of the yarn as possible, so I can make sure to get to that black in the gradient. But I'm having fun with that. The beads themselves, like I said, they are a little bit bigger. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but they are clear with a black center. So I also thought that was really fun to kind of add the black, the wicked part to it. But they're also triangular shaped. And I remember I picked up these beads when I was at the Tinsmith's Wife last year when we did kind of our impromptu trip to San Antonio. The way that we traveled, we passed through the town that that yarn shop was in. So I went in there and bought that. And I thought the beads were really interesting because they were triangular. Had no idea at the time what I was going to use them for, but it turns out to perfectly work with this project. So I'm glad that I picked those up. And that's really the project that has been getting my attention lately. So when I do kind of have been feeling like knitting, that is what I have been working on. So I should be able to finish that one by the end of the month and have my quarterly knit along project done. The past 2 quarters, I have finished the project like a day or 2 after the end of the quarter, which for me is fine since I'm not eligible for the prizes. That's totally okay. But I would like to actually, finish on time this month. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll kind of use this as a reminder. Don't forget the quarterly knit along. There is still time definitely for you to join in if you haven't already. So any project, it does not have to be a shawl for this quarter. So any project inspired by or named after a fairy tale. And then if you have no idea what kinds of projects to pick, there's a bundle in the podcast group on Ravelry that you can look at that has some really great suggestions. Like I said, that's how I found that Wicked shawl. And the prizes are pretty awesome. There's a skein of mustache self-striping in the Beauty and Her Beast colorway. The 5 mini skein gradients of purples from Fairy Tales by Safroni Skeins. And then the stitch marker set that is based on Cinderella. So 3 awesome prizes. Hopefully if you have finished something, go post in the FO thread. So that way you can get credit and entered into the giveaway, and give us your progress update in the chat thread. What I've been dyeing is basically a lot of yarn for a wholesale order. So I'm going to, I kind of have it, the yarn I've been working on piled up. I'm going to move the camera, hopefully not blind you with the light coming in from the window. But over there is a big stack of yarn. There you can kind of see it. So the big stack of yarn there, that is for a wholesale order that I'm working on. That's the yarn that is dry, that still needs to be reskeined and labeled. So I need to really get a move on that, because that order is for someone for Stitches Texas, which is next week. So I personally do not have a booth at Stitches Texas, various reasons for that. But so I personally do not have a booth. But if you are going and you want to find round table yarns, go by Threads and You. So the woman who runs the booth is named Shelly. She's a really, really nice woman. She has actually quite a few indie dyers that she has yarn from. So definitely check out her booth, not just for round table yarns, but for the other stuff that she has. But she will have Camelot, so the fingering weight merino cashmere nylon, Avalon, the DK weight merino silk, just so wonderful, soft and shiny, and then Merlin, the self-striping. So those are the 3 bases she will have, as long as I finish the reskeining in time. Anyway, so all of it has been dyed. I still have 3 more self-striping colorways that need to be dyed. Actually, one of them is in the dye pot right now. So I'll definitely be working on that over the next week, finishing up that order. But that is, that's exciting. I do feel like I'm getting into more of a rhythm with Luke being in school of getting some dyeing done, although little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Just completely blanked on the word. I'm backed up there's still another word, but anyway, but I'm backed up on the rescanning. I definitely need to catch up on that. My goal was to every day reskein the yarn that was ready from the previous day. So the yarn that I had put on the drying rack overnight, it dries, and then the next day to reskein that yarn. That was my goal, to kind of keep up with things. It hasn't happened, so anyway, got a lot of catching up to do. The other big thing that I've been thinking about and doing is taking a really hard look at my colors to see if there are any colors that need to be discontinued. Because the sad thing is that, especially if I only have a 10 by 10 booth, I run out of space. And so trying to have all the colors sometimes is a little challenging. And since I'm bringing in new colors from whatever is going out in the yarn club, sometimes to make space, old colors need to go out. So what I did is I actually, keep track of which colors are sold at various events, so I can kind of see which colors I should kind of focus on. And so I looked at that spreadsheet and, just did the list in the order of which colors have the most sales and which colors have the least sales. If it was a color that I've only just added in the past few months, I kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt. It needs a little bit more time to see whether or not it's a good seller. So I looked at colors that have been around for at least a year. And those that were at the bottom of the list, I set up a survey that I sent out to my mailing list last week. And just asking, is this a color that you think that I should keep? A color that you think I should get rid of? Or are you on the fence about it? Is it a color I could keep, I could get rid of? So I sent a reminder to the mailing list yesterday about that, maybe 2 days ago. Anyway, I sent a reminder to the mailing list, got a few more responses. It's been really interesting to read the responses, both the comments, and then also see what people have picked. So I'm kind of taking that into consideration, whether or not people, there are a couple of colors that almost everyone has said either keep it or I'm on the fence. And then there are a couple of other colors that almost everyone has said get rid of it or I'm on the fence. So I really think that that's going to help me make the decisions of which colors to keep and which colors to discontinue. A lot of them are kind of I don't really have neon colors, but some of them are some of the brighter colors, like that really bright yellow, the really bright green, that's almost kind of this green that's in that container. So some of those colors, those seem to be the ones that just haven't been very good sellers. And somebody made a comment that those are some of the colors that really just don't go with the rest of my palette of my other yarns. I kind of see them as pop colors, colors that do add to a project if you need a little bit of pop, but apparently the sales numbers don't lie. If people aren't buying them, then it's kind of pointless to keep dyeing them. The one person asked, are we going to get a chance to buy these colors before they get discontinued? And to be honest, if there's ever a color that I've discontinued that you really want, just ask me, and even though it's been discontinued, I'll dye it for you as long as I still have the dyes that are necessary. There's one color I have to discontinue because a dye that I need has itself been discontinued. So in that case, even if somebody really wanted it, I couldn't do it once I run out of that dye. But as long as I have the dyes available, if there's a color that's been discontinued that you really want, just let me know. Anyway, so I will be making that announcement in next week's newsletter, which colors have been discontinued. Also, I've been looking at bases to see which bases haven't really been selling very well and whether or not I should potentially discontinue those. And the two that are on the bottom are Guinevere and Gawain. Both are fingering weight. Both are bases that I picked for very specific reasons. They have their strengths and their weaknesses. Gawain has a very tight twist. Both are 100% superwash merino. Gawain has a very tight twist. It's a 3-ply. So it's a very nice rounded yarn, so it looks fantastic for textured stitches. Cables just pop with the yarn. It's really great for that. And Guinevere, on the other hand, is a 2-ply, and a 2-ply yarn is kind of a flatter yarn. So it does not work very well with textured stitches, but lace stitches is where it shines, and it looks awesome in lace. And even though I tell people that, it seems like either once they feel Camelot, which is the merino cashmere nylon, it's so soft. Guinevere and Gawain don't feel quite as soft, even though they're both merino. And I think, you know, once people feel some of the other bases, Guinevere and Gawain are kind of, you know, left aside. And so looking at the sales numbers, there's a huge difference. Like, I sell about 10% of what I, like my Camelot. Let's say I for every 100 skeins of Camelot that I sell about 10 skeins of Gawain, and probably Gawain and Guinevere combined. So there's a huge difference. And again, kind of thinking about keeping up with inventory and bringing yarns to shows and having, basically when I buy yarn and I dye it until it sells, you know, it's an investment that I've made, this inventory. So having this big investment in yarn that is not moving, it's been, you know, kind of questionable. So I haven't made a final decision on those, but I think what I want to do, some people, so when I also announced that in the newsletter, and some people did write back and saying, oh no, I love, especially Gawain, I love Gawain. It really is a great yarn for socks. And I realized that I've been pushing Gawain as a yarn for textured stitches when it does have another strength. It does not have nylon in it, but it does have a really tight twist, which makes it hold up really well for sock knitting. So I know there are people who only use yarns with nylon for socks, but there are other people who really don't like using nylon or can't use nylon for various reasons. And so Gawain in that case is a really good sock yarn because of the tight twist. So I'm kind of thinking maybe if I shift my focus from works really well with textured stitches to this is actually a good sock yarn, then maybe I can kind of rehabilitate Gawain. But I thought that I would maybe try that out. I'm kind of turning away from Guinevere for a little while. Maybe I'll come back to that one. But for now, I'm going to kind of attempt to rehabilitate Gawain, see what happens. I also realize that my current inventory, almost all but one of the colors that I currently have in stock are all colors that are on my list of potential colors to discontinue. So perhaps lately Gawain hasn't really been given a good chance, that I haven't had colors that have been very attractive or good selling. And so I went to the top of my list and picked my top 10 best selling colors. And in between the dyeing for the wholesale order, I'm starting to dye some Gawain in those colors, in the top 10 colors. So once I have that done, I will put those in the online shop and kind of I guess go back out with Gawain as a sock yarn, especially for people who don't want nylon in their socks, and see if putting the best-selling colors on that base might help it sell a little better. And if it does start to sell, then maybe Gawain will stick around. And if even putting the best-selling colors on it and kind of trying to change the focus a little bit for it, if that doesn't work, then that probably is a sign that, yeah, Gawain probably should go ahead and get discontinued. So we'll see what happens with that. I still need to, I've got 4 of the colors dyed, so I've got 6 more that I want to dye before I start, going back out and trying to focus on Gawain a little bit more. Anyway, so lots of stuff going on in the Roundtable Yarns world. It's time for a kitty cat update. I will talk about Sam in just a little bit, but Wall-E was under my desk, and so I grabbed him so I could show you that he is definitely a growing kitty. So Wall-E has, when you compare him to Sam, Wall-E is still pretty small, but he has definitely gotten a lot bigger from when we first got him. And so we got him at the end of June, so that means we've now had him for more than 2 months. And he is my cuddle kitty.
At first, you know, I mentioned that he ran from us all the time, and now he really likes to be where I am. Like I said, he was under my desk, at my feet, sleeping, so I have woken him up a bit. But he likes to be where I am. He likes to jump in my lap all the time, so he is definitely a cuddler. If I leave a room, he follows after me. So he is definitely grown into being a kitty who likes people instead of running away from them. Although we had Luke's birthday party this past weekend, so a lot of his cousins and a friend came over, and with all of the noise from the other people, Wall-E did not come out. So it's not everybody that he is cuddly and friendly with, but he's definitely a nice snuggly kitty for me and for my husband too. And even for Luke sometimes, when Luke is not really loud and running around. And when it looks like Wall-E wants to get back on the floor and go back to sleep, so I'm going to put him down, and there's another kitty under my desk. So let me pick her up. Come here, Eva. So here, give you her front end. Here is Miss Eva, and again, I'll kind of show you this way. You can see that she's bigger, but not as big as Wall-E. She will have some times where she likes to cuddle, but she doesn't really like to be kind of picked up and held. She will get into laps, and she really likes to get into my lap while I'm knitting. And we're still working on not playing with yarn. But she also likes to, mostly likes to be around someone in the house, although she'll spend a little more time alone than Wall-E will. So she's doing really well too, and it's been a while since she's been on camera, so I'm glad that she was in here and I was able to show her to you. Sam, on the other hand, no, I'm checking to see if he was in his normal spot. Sam is not in here, and I don't want to go after him because he's probably in his little box in his scratching post, and when he's in there, it is hard to get him out. Anyway, so update on his eye. So last week he went back to the eye doctor and had the stitches removed. So for those of you who didn't watch last week's episode, Sam had to have eye surgery to basically put a corneal flap on his eye. So anyway, so the stitches came out last week, and unfortunately some of the graft had not had come away from where it was supposed to be. So about 10% is what the eye doctor said was no longer attached. It separated. But he felt that if we just kind of give it time, that there was room for the cornea to grow. I'm trying not to get too detailed because eye stuff kind of creeps me out a little bit, so I don't want to get too detailed. But anyway, so the doctor said that he was disappointed. It was kind of unexpected that the graft didn't hold completely, but he felt that there were good signs that it would grow and reconnect in that gap area. So he wanted to recheck him. I think that was on Friday. He wanted to recheck him on like 5 days. So yesterday, Wednesday, I brought Sam back, and I was, maybe this is also why I've been kind of in a bit of a slump lately. I was really bracing myself for the worst, because the doctor said, there was a chance that we might have to put a patch on the eye, so go back into surgery, or if it got much worse, then we would have to kind of consider other options. So I was really bracing myself for the worst. So when the doctor, was kind of examining me, he said, "Oh, that looks good." It was just kind of this big sense of relief that went over me. So apparently things are not 100%, but they are definitely looking a lot better. And I trust the doctor. To me, his eye just does not look good. But the doctor says that it is definitely improving. It is making, going in the right direction. So he thinks that's a good sign. So we're just going to continue to let it kind of heal on its own. And we have an appointment in 2 weeks to go back and get him checked. As far as how Sam is acting otherwise, he is acting perfectly normal. He is his normal Sam self. We're still having our morning times where I go and do some knitting, and he jumps up beside me, and we kind of have our little morning time. And he is just completely normally himself. So it doesn't seem the eye doesn't seem to be bothering him at all, which is a good thing. So hopefully everything is going okay with him. Fingers crossed that it continues to go okay. I do have to give him eye drops and ointment 4 times a day, so definitely having to do a lot of work towards his healing, but I think it's been worth it so far since he does seem to be making progress, and like I said, he's acting completely normal. So all good news on the cat front. So it looks like kitty cat nap time is over, and Wall-E and Eva are ready for a round of playing. So that probably is also a sign that I should go ahead and end this episode. As far as reading and watching, I know I didn't have anything last time, and this time there really hasn't been that much to talk about. I do watch Outlander, and it starts up this weekend, so hopefully I will have something to talk about there, and maybe some of our other shows. I haven't even checked the schedule to see if other shows are starting up, so maybe I'll have a few things to say in watching. As far as reading, I think I need to pick a knitting project that allows me to knit and read at the same time. I think that's when I really get the most reading done. So I think I probably need to cast on something else on my needles that is a good, garter stitch or something that will allow me to do some reading, and that way I can have something to share and do that segment. Anyway, but so that's it for this podcast episode. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope that that you enjoyed the episode, whether you are someone who is just checking me out for the first time. If so, thank you so much for watching this episode, and I hope you will come back. And to those of you who've been watching other episodes from the beginning or more recently, thank you for coming back and sharing this hour or so with me every other week. Please go to the podcast group on Ravelry and go to the discussion thread for this episode, and feel free to chat about anything that you'd like. Make sure you go to the Knit Along chat thread and participate in the Knit Along, and when you are finished, post your project to the FO thread so you can be entered into the giveaway. And if you feel inclined, hit the thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube to show that you enjoyed the episode. And if you're watching this on iTunes, if you could leave a review, that would be really awesome. And don't forget to subscribe if you don't already. So I hope you guys have a really wonderful 2 weeks. I'm already feeling a lot better, kind of progressing toward wanting to jump into projects and doing other things. So I think my Be Confident is coming back, and so hopefully I will also have a really awesome next 2 weeks. So I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Until then, happy knitting!